So I am traveling today and I have a pretty long layover. So, what better time than now to answer a pretty frequently asked question, which is how do you fly with a banjo? Or just people asking for advice when they need to travel and bring an instrument. And I've done that a lot in the last 3 years, with all the connecting flights and whatnot. I've probably been on and off over 100 planes, which is, over 100 different opportunities for the banjo to get put in a bunch of different places, maybe in the overhead compartment, or maybe checked under the plane, or lost, or broken. All of which have either happened to me or happened to close friends of mine. And sometimes you can control these things, and sometimes you can't. So I'm just going to run through all the different things I can think of that are going to help you get your banjo wherever you're going in one piece, safely, affordably, all that. So, best case scenario, the safest thing for your banjo is to bring it on the plane with you, put it in the overhead compartment or a coat closet, something like that. And there's very little risk involved in that. So that's what you want to go for if possible. And I say if possible because technically, Congress passed a law, I don't know how many years ago, that airlines were required to let you bring an instrument on board if there's room, which was, probably pretty helpful. I think it probably made a difference. But first of all, it's if there's room, which is a huge caveat. Obviously, if there's no room, there's no room. But there's certainly no preference given to an instrument over baggage or whatever it is. So if you get on the plane last and the overhead compartments are full and there's no room anywhere, they could still refuse you and be within that law. And so that happens. So that's why you want to follow all these steps that I'm about to lay out so that you do get your banjo on board. You will get your banjo on board if you are on the plane early and if you have a level of ticket that gives you certain baggage allowances, right? And it really just all depends on what the specific policies of each airline are. They're all a little different, but you can kind of get the same thing by paying more, basically. Or if you fly enough, then you get some sort of loyalty points or miles or whatever it is. And so that can help a lot. I can't speak to any of them other than Southwest. And the timing of this is kind of interesting because Southwest is changing a lot of their policies. So you're going to have to check on this before you take my word for it. But the deal with Southwest is it is not assigned seating. Again, this is as of right now. This is probably going to be different tomorrow, but there's no assigned seating. And you can pay, I think it's like $25 per flight to be in the first group that gets on the plane. And that basically guarantees that there's going to be space in the overhead compartment for a banjo. And why I say guarantees is because Southwest also, as of right now, only flies like two planes. It's like a 737. It's like two different versions of the 737, whatever it is. Big planes with big overhead compartments that always fit the banjo. You'll never end up on one of those smaller planes where you'll never fit a banjo. It limits where you're going to go, perhaps, but for a lot of reasons, Southwest has made sense for a lot of traveling musicians, and people who are touring end up touring in places where a Southwest hub is convenient enough compared to somewhere that Delta will go in a smaller plane. And so assuming you've gotten one of those tickets, you're getting on early enough, or there's room, whatever it is, you've gotten your banjo on board, great, problem solved. But it does happen now and then, even on Southwest, but on various airlines, that there won't be room, or sometimes there is room and they just don't want to deal with a huge instrument and they say, there's no room, sorry. And you say, but it's the law. Let me show you. I have a piece of paper that says this is law. And they say, no, you're not taking the banjo on board. And it's kind of up to you. Do you want to stand there and argue with someone? Or do you want to just get on your flight and go where you have to go? And so they just take it right before you get on the plane. They put it under, and then you get it right after you get off the plane. It's not even at the final destination, so no baggage claim, nothing like that. It's the middle ground. It's not safe, but it's not the worst option. But there are ways of making that potentially safer. The first is just the case that you're flying with. I know people that are so confident they're going to get their instrument on board that they will fly with a soft gig bag, not even a hard shell case or anything like that. I think I've done that before, but I don't make a habit out of it because you don't know if your flight's going to get canceled and you're going to have to do something else on the way home, or, whatever it is. It's like you can never really count on your method working out just perfectly. So I fly with a flight case that, in theory, is going to protect the banjo from a lot of different forms of trauma. It's made by Calton. It's the kind of most common flight case that people will buy. There's a couple other brands, but Calvin is definitely kind of known as like the industry standard. Most people I know opt for that if they can, and you can find them used. That's the one I found. You know, if it's in good shape, then it's just as safe. It's no problem. Um, but in theory, in a flight case, the way that they're designed, instrument can't be crushed, and it's relatively safe from hitting the ground and having damage happen to it. And aside from the case that your banjo is in, there's a couple things you can do that'll probably help if it is gate checked, or just worst case scenario is just regular checked baggage. Is you can loosen the strings. There's a lot of tension on the instrument when the strings are at full tension, and so I've heard that can really contribute to if there's some sort of impact, then it being under so much tension already can cause it to break or snap or whatever it is. But also, once it's in the case, you might notice that your instrument has a lot of room to move around, whatever kind of case it is. And so, if you can fill that with foam or, whatever, if you're packing a bunch of clothes, socks or something like that, so that it has no room to really move around. And it's even, whatever you're using might be a soft material like foam or something like that. It can be padded. And that's going to help too. But there is one more thing that you can do to kind of ease your mind about all this, which, it works for me because I do this professionally. But if you take this really seriously, or you have the income for it, then this might work. And it's to bring a flight banjo, which is not any particular kind of banjo. It's just something that you're not particularly precious about, or at the very least is replaceable, right? So this is a Huber banjo. It's VRB3 or G, whatever it is. It's like a Granada copy style, and it's a great banjo. It works for me for what I'm trying to use it for. Then I need to go be on the road and play on tour or go teach or whatever it is. It kind of is like up to what I want it to sound like and feel like and all those things, without feeling like I'm bringing this antique around that I have to be really precious with. So you got to thread your own needle in terms of what that might be the same questions you're asking yourself, or you might be saying, I just want something to play when I go on vacation. What's the cheapest banjo I can buy? And then you really don't have to be very precious at all if you don't care what happens to it. I mean, you should be taking good care of our belongings, certainly, but you don't have to lose sleep over it like you might with a more expensive or kind of irreplaceable instrument, something like that. And the reason I'm bringing this banjo is I'm flying on a flight that requires going on one of those smaller planes where it's not going to fit in the overhead. And I did that flight already, and it was gate checked, and everything turned out fine, no problem. The rest of the flights, I'll probably be able to get it in the overhead compartment, so I'm not really worried about that. But I'm glad I took the precaution anyway, I guess. Anyway, it's time to get to my next flight, so I hope this was useful to you. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. It's very possible I left something out, so let me know, and I'll try to answer any of those questions in the comments. But if you want to support any of these videos, go ahead and check out Patreon. There's a link in the description below. You get tablature and bonus content, all kinds of stuff that you can't find here on YouTube. Great way to help me make more of these videos, so if you check that out, I really appreciate it. But otherwise, that's going to do for now. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.